forgot. But
Yeah, that's cool.
all right.
Should we be doing intros at the start of these videos since it gets recorded?
Might be a good idea. Let's
Yeah.
start that now. Do you want to start, Joseph?
Sure. Hi, welcome to the ShareJS and Derby office hours. Joining us, we have Ian, who's on the Lever team, and me, and I'm the author of ShareJS. Nate unfortunately can't join us because he's our CEO and he's busy all the time. But yeah, he'll join us sometime.
And Vladimir, do you want to introduce yourself?
What is one more time?
I don't want to introduce myself.
And
Introduce myself, yes?
yes,
I'm just one member of community of the Derby and ShareJS. Fun, kind of fun.
Cool. And Blair?
Okay, so hi, my name is Blair. I'm a developer at currently Hello Hackio. We do online education software,
oh cool.
and we're using a combination of WebRTC and Quill, ShareJS, LiveDB, and Rethink to sort of provide a multi-party collaborative workspace for teachers and students.
Nice.
Anything else?
That's good. Yeah. So did Vladimir, were you done? I mean, did you still have more questions? Because you guys were discussing the client cache feature before I cut you off.
I understand that I can use operation apply, and maybe we'll need to add some code on ShareJS visualization. I don't have any questions more.
Yeah. So Blair, what are you building? Like, how you know?
Yeah.
Hello, Blair?
What I'm building?
Vladimir or Blair?
Blair. Sorry.
Oh, me. Oh.
Yeah, I'm curious about your education thing.
You want more information?
Yeah, I love education things.
Oh, okay. We're building we're building a marketplace for teachers to come in and set up courses. They set their own schedule, set their own hours, set their own pricing, set the class sizes. Like for example, if they want, like we could do one-on-one teaching, which is very common.
Yep.
However, we can go up to about 7 or 8 students simultaneously, and we sort of take WebRTC and we do sort of like we bring everybody together into a large classroom environment, but we also have a small we have a breakout capability, so we can take 2 students or 2 groups of 2s or groups of 3s or however the teacher wants to do it, and let them sort of practice together. So, like in essence, it's the way like online English education works over in Asia in like a brick and mortar classroom. So we're trying to emulate that effect. However, we're also offering things like collaborative tools and whatnot as well. But we're sort of hoping to launch in August.
Tomorrow?
2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up says we're going in August. I don't know if that's necessarily realistic. Maybe September is what we're looking at now. Things have kind of
2027.
2027. And Simon, you want to jump in this call, or he's still leading? So I'm sorry. But yeah, no. If you have any more questions, like I'd love talking about it. I just don't want to monopolize the whole thing, you know.
No, I find it really cool. I was a teacher a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah.
I was teaching a couple of years ago. I taught like introductory programming for a year to a bunch of students, which is really awesome. And yeah, I don't know. I care a lot about teaching stuff.
Me as well, myself as well. I'm kind of hoping that people who are knowledgeable on, there's so many frameworks, there's so many things going on. It's very exciting. It's just really, really hard to get access to these people. You guys have done a fantastic job offering this Hangout. It's just that, like, I believe that, you know, if you're going to do open source development, you know, there are ways of, you know, this might sound a little bit evil, but there are ways of monetizing, you know, your efforts,
right?
To sort of make it worth your time.
Yeah. 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 No,
well, maybe that's a little awkward, but I shouldn't. But,
I don't think it's evil to want to monetize like open source work. Like that, I don't know. I'm very much in the camp of like, you know, hey, if you can figure out a sustainable like financial situation so you can work on it, you know, yourself without having other people pay you, then that's great. Like, you know, or if you want to build a business around open source work, like if another externality, a positive externality of having a business is that also there's a whole bunch of source code that appears online because, you know, because of the company, then that's really cool. Yeah, I don't know. I've got strong opinions about the BSD, but
likewise. It's worthy of another hangout for licensing and open source ideology. But we put in the Rethink driver with an MIT license, so it's you know, have at it, guys.
Nice.
So
yeah, I'm also a big fan of teaching online education and stuff. I put out a lot of tutorials and tutorial videos, and I've actually thought like it'd be nice to have sort of, you know, platform, because I've given in-person workshops a bunch of times in SF and other places, and like there isn't many resources out there to like try to scale that, or like,
yeah,
I don't know, because yeah, pretty cool.
It's one of the big problems. We came at it from like an English teaching problem, but then when we sort of like really took a big look at how the way other markets worked, we sort of said, wow, like this is applicable to a whole bunch of different segments, and we're hoping, for example, like, you know, like if you take like the Bay Area, for example, like it's a really big microcosm of ideas happening all the time. It's moving so fast that unless you are literally on the front line, it's really hard to keep track of it. But there are so many people around the world that are like very, very talented. They just, you know, are unable to be there, right? So,
right.
You know, like how do you connect the two? How do you sort of create these spaces that allow some sort of like a common forum for people to get up to speed, and then, you know, maybe even like take the ball forward.
Yeah.
You know, in a way that nobody anticipated.
Yeah. So it was there a talk by his name, the Joel Spolsky the other day. There's a talk from a few years ago, but he was talking about like he was talking about Stack Overflow and about what's the word for it? Like basically like around how people interact online, and how you have to be really careful, and how, like, you know, and how you're designing your interface to elicit, you know, like to tell people what the community is for and what the community is not for, and a whole bunch of other things like that. But it was, yeah, it was really kind of fascinating just to think about. It's like, oh yeah, like I guess we do design out, you know, and it's kind of like, you know, it's like a bit of a trope, but oh yeah, like you get, you know, based on the UI design, you end up with certain certain, like, you know, user behavior, but also he was talking about like the UI design also tells your users, you know, what this is not for. Like, go away, you know, we're not interested in this particular set of questions, this particular set of things, which ends up getting you a much stronger community of the people who are interested in whatever it is. Yeah, apparently there's a Stack Overflow which is for people. There's two mathematics Stack Overflows. One of them is like regular mathematics questions, and the other one is the deal is if the question that you're asking could be answered by the average maths professor, then they don't want you. Sorry. That's not a question for this board. And that's like explicit, community design, which is anyway, important. I think it's cool.
It's really hard to do this stuff, especially with two-sided. Especially when you're two-sided, like when you don't have like Stack Overflow is a great example of community behavior, or community-driven behavior, where the people just volunteer their time to do the work, and they're doing it all for the karma. But which is I think it's excellent, and I think Stack Overflow demands very little from the person other than like the precise answer, and the community sort of susses out who's got the best answer and whatever. But when it comes to teaching, like everybody thinks they've got some ability to teach, and that's really not true. Some people really love collecting money for teaching, but they're not actually effective. So, you're right. When you design, like for example, like how we designed our our teacher onboarding process, like we try to make it as simple as possible, but at the same time, like it's obvious that we're trying to sort of separate the wheat from the chaff at some point during the process. Yeah, you're right. You have to be so conscious of it, but it's where and when that it's the really sensitive moment, I guess. And
Joel Swirsky made a really interesting point, which was that like Stack Overflow is not actually for the person asking the question. He was like, yeah, you'd be forgiven for thinking that, it's for question askers, but it's actually for the I think on average 5 people read every question every day, and the people who ask the question are just providing a service to all the people who are just punching some random question to Google. But I mean that's not true at all for a teaching platform. It has to be for the teachers and for the students, in some combination.
We built a platform and we don't know what's going to happen. We hope people use it. That would be the best part.
I mean, I guess as well the other hard thing is that with teaching, like you say, people don't know what a good teacher is. People blame themselves if they don't learn something with a given teacher most of the time. This is my experience. There's a lot of, it's complicated, right? Like maybe you just put the hours in to learn. Like the person who's teaching clearly knows their stuff. They obviously know the source material, but
it's a really tricky problem, and I don't know, maybe we solved it enough to get traction. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out we'll keep going until we figure it out. But for us right now, it's so sensitive. Like the real sensitive issues are sort of oriented around once we actually get them in the room and to do it. How do we make sure that everybody's on the same page at the same time? And that's what I think. Things like Share are just phenomenal, right? It's access to something that didn't really seem possible to have access to even a year ago.
Right.
It was there, but it's just and I think you guys really are doing a wonderful job with it. I know you guys have a huge stack there, but we kind of stop around the Share level.
Yeah.
But it's up and down. It's pretty amazing what you guys got going on. So
thanks. I appreciate it. I always feel like I'm not doing it. I feel like there's so many things that I need to do that I haven't done with ShareJS. I just put more time into it.
Cursors. Cursors.
Yeah, cursors, presence,
that'd be nice.
Documentation, making all the tests. That's. It's supported actually in ShareJS. It's just not in the live TV. We need to. I haven't done the multi-server cursor support stuff. I've been going through and adding unit tests at the moment, and that's satisfying actually.
I'd say you're probably doing it right. Consolidate what you got, make sure it's all there, and then do another push. We're patient, and we'll help where we can.
Right.
We don't have we're a team of 2, so and we're in launch mode right now. So I don't know exactly what we're gonna. This isn't something tomorrow, but like that's gonna happen. But like I believe strongly. Like we've been through every operational transformation package on the web. We've been through it all, and shares seems like the combination of share tandem. It seems to like work really well for us. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it.
Apparently, we're not allowed to talk about it though. That's top secret. Anyways, but moving on. Is there like so you're going to do unit tests for the next big push for 7 is out, and that's for production use. Is that correct?
Yeah. So 7 is out. Like so. ShareJS 8.7 was largely made to meet the demands of us at Lever, and we were in launch mode, and we were like, oh my god, we're just going to get something working and something which we can, for which we can run up multiple front-end servers, and that was all like, that was like last year, and it's been slowly like, in League of Legends, there's this like concept people talk about. There are these bushes. It's a game. There are these bushes, and you can't see who's in the bush unless you're in the bush yourself. So sometimes people like hide in the bush to jump out on people. But people talk about like face checking, which is where you like walk yourself into the bush so that you can see if anyone's there. But of course, if they're there, then they're gonna like jump on you and attack you because they can see that you're gonna find out they're there anyway. But I feel like we've been doing that a bit with us, ShareJS, over the last year, which is to say that we've like diagnosed and fixed a lot of issues when they've come up in our own production systems. So yeah, I'm pretty confident that like ShareJS 8.7 is pretty stable. It works. It's like there's no known issues and stuff, and we've got thousands of people using it and using it in a really complicated situation. So I'm pretty confident that it's correct. But I am still adding all the tests and stuff. I'm sure that there's going to be bugs that I find. I've already released 0.7. A lot of the tests and the redesigning of the tests I'm going to be doing for 0.8 because I want to change some APIs while I'm at it. But if I find bugs and stuff, I'll probably backport those bugs since it's almost identical code. The 0.7 to 0.8 change is very minor. There's just a few little API changes and stuff that I've been wanting to make for a while, but I don't want to. They're going to require changes up the stack. So of course it's a compatibility version bump because of Semver. But yeah.
Strange question. Are you looking at kind of breaking some of these key functionalities into separate projects?
I've already been doing a lot of that. So currently, the way everything's set up is that LiveDB is the database backend side of things, which does OT for the database backend. I was actually like lying in bed last night thinking about how I should probably pull out the like data model functions, the OT functions themselves, like the functions that call the OT function, into a separate module and then share that from ShareJS and LiveDB. The middleware and the REST API for 0.8 are pulled out into their own modules, so they're separate because in a sense they just operate on LiveDB. So the middleware is like lets you like intercept submission operations and check to make sure that they're valid and make sure that the right user is allowed to make that change and so on. And then ShareJS ends up being like after you pull that stuff out, and I pulled out like a lot of other stuff when I did 0.7. It ends up basically being like a file and a client file. It's just like a few client files just to make up the server client API and do the protocol stuff. But yeah, I can't really think of how I can break it down any further than that.
Is there going to be a permissions or some sort of ACL?
So we've been talking about that for a long time. That's a really good question. And we want to right now. So the ShareJS API provides you enough to be able to like build your own aeroplane, so to speak. Which is to say that anytime there's fetches or gets or submit like make a change or whatever, you can make a hook using the LiveDB middleware code so that your function will be called when that happens. And then in your function you can say no, reject this operation. So at Lever, that's how we build. That's how we do all of our access control stuff. We have a big access control file that does all that. And Nate actually posted a stripped down version of it to a gist, which he posted somewhere, which I can find for you if you want.
It's in the Lever blog post from the last open source office hours. I found the gist.
Oh, cool. Sweet. Yeah. So we posted that. So the, and it's like, and like we check account IDs and we check whatever we want to check. I really want to. I mean, this is on my list. I really want to like take something like what Firebase does for their access control lists and access control around their documents, and port that API across. I was having a look at it the other day. It turns out that the Firebase APIs, the code that Firebase uses to do access control is actually open source. So with some modifications to how it's actually hooking into the system, we can probably like use that code directly as something that can sit on top of the ShareJS middleware, so that you can make a, ask to get that access control, like access control rule as a big blob of this, and then say, okay, now generate me ShareJS middleware out of that, and then the ShareJS middleware will then do all the access control for that. So I would love to do that. If you're feeling adventurous, then by all means, I can do this thing. But
it's something we'd be willing to look at because we're gonna have to cross this bridge, and I'd rather code it up and just send it back into the shared repository or let you guys clean it up and do it in a more generic implementation.
Yeah.
And that would be something we'd be willing to get involved with because we're gonna do it anyways. And our current plans for ACL are kind of impish to begin with. So we don't know what we're going to do yet, but we know that's coming. But I think we're going to launch first and then see what people are actually really willing to, like what they're going to demand on us. Thank you for that link. We're not sure yet. We're just going to sort of do a wait and see because people were like, collaborative workspace. Okay, we gave it to them, and now we'll see what they demand.
Right.
Yeah. We'll take it as it comes.
Certainly,
so that's something we know what's coming.
Yeah. A lot of people have asked for that, and a lot of people want it, and it's something that a lot of people care about. I've just been like, I don't have enough time to do all of this stuff. It's one of those things that it already worked for us, so like taking a whole bunch of time to make a decent access control list, which unfortunately, but maybe it's something that I'll do. Some other time, like next year or something.
Okay, well, that works for us.
Yeah.
We're going to be really focused in on imports because, from my understanding, a lot of the people that are doing online education are doing it off Word documents and Google Docs. So we'll be forced to sort of come up with some sort of method to do importing and all that, and that's going to take time.
Yeah, you might want to also look at the REST API for ShareJS. I've just been updating it for 0.8 and so on, but documentation is still correct with what you can do with it. But if you want to do data inputs using it, that's a decent option that you can go with post. So the reason that is not correct, the code is actually Title 7 is living inside the ShareJS repository. But the API can change it the wrong way. The rest, like the
Sorry, I'm getting a lot of. I can't hear anything.
You probably bleeding down? Someone bleeding down.
Ian, is that yours? I think it's Ian's audio.
Oh, is it really loud?
Yeah.
All right, 1 second. Let me.
Cool.
Okay. Sorry, it was getting a little bit hard to hear. Yeah, we're gonna look at the REST API because we gotta sort of juggle sockets a little bit, but we'll have a deeper look at it. But that's definitely something we're gonna have to look at later. We've got a small little prototype that we've got working, and we're gonna start bridging it from there. What do you guys? Just I know this is we're like kind of into this, but like, what does level do exactly?
What does level do?
Yeah, I haven't had a lot of time to look into it, so.
Live TV?
No, like the lever. Sorry, lever.
Oh, Lever. Yeah, we're I mean, Ian's probably a better person to answer this, but oh, actually, maybe not. I don't know. We build a hiring platform, so we make a piece of software which lets you track job for a job application process. So it's software for people who are recruiters and stuff to be able to like basically sort of Gmail for recruiting. Yeah, that's.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so you do the onboarding process for new recruits. Okay.
It's not onboarding. It's like, let's say you have let's say, you want to hire Vladimir, then Vladimir, you'll add him to Lever, and and then you'll reach out to him, and all of the communication that you have with Vladimir will be captured inside Lever, and then you go away on holidays, and then another recruiter might take over communicating with him, and they can see all of your communication, and then you decide to bring in an on-site interview, and you'll like add interview schedules and so on to invite your coworkers to interview him and so on. So
okay, I get it. Okay, that's pretty clear. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I just wanted to. What am I? Yeah.
Yeah, you're good now.
Just want to add like some of the ways that we use the collaborative part of the stack is like we kind of joke that we put together a bunch of existing communications technologies and just kind of bolted them together. We have like emails, you sync with your your Gmail, calendar. We have the main interface to the app is a giant spreadsheet, essentially, like a big list of the people that you might care about. And part of this is to enable anyone in the company to collaborate on the hiring process, right? So, like Joseph mentioned, there's a lot of communication that goes on between recruiters and candidates. But what we hope is that people that are making the hiring decisions get involved earlier in the process, and we'll be able to feel comfortable logging in and like leaving a note or having a conversation about a candidate, right there in the app. So yeah, we're basically building, like tying together all these communication tools and using Share and Derby to build those in ways that are like even more collaborative than they used to be.
That's very cool. That's very cool. We sort of had ideas about doing this, like we were going to take our learning platform and say, oh yeah, well when we do when we get traction and we get going, we got to go a new direction. We were like, yeah, we'll like bring in corporate investors and like they'll be able to pick and choose the high success rate individuals. And at this point, I just want to see the server run for a few minutes. I'm just satisfied if it works the way it is.
I hear.
Yes. Hi, Eric. I guess someone just came on here, but
yeah,
I guess no video. Okay. Well, anyways, but yeah, that's interesting. So you guys launched last year?
Yeah. Towards the end of last year, we started signing in customers, and now we're signing them on as fast as we can. And yeah, I mean, the last 6 months, I'd say, has seen a whole lot of iterations, both on Share, like Joseph's been talking about, and Derby got, like, the front end templating stuff got a rewrite and like became a lot faster and it's a lot easier to use. And then we just we test, basically putting all this stuff to the test by trying to build this application on top of it. And our theory, and the one we're trying to prove out, I think it's proving out already, is that we can develop applications, collaborative applications, better and faster than we would be able to with any other tools.
Yeah, I see the potential for that. I really do see the potential for that. I was wondering if you'd seen something called Tree. I'll see if I can dig that up. Oh, how am I going to do this? Let me do this from the top. DerbyJS Tree. We looked at This is kind of a hard one to find. We originally started looking at the OTJS platform.
Yeah, that guy just went and like he just appeared out of nowhere. I'd been doing ShareJS for like a year and a half by that point or something, and like I'm just gonna take like github.com/operational transform or something.
And he just boom, there it is. Like,
I know. Yeah. It's like, well, that's I don't think he's been maintaining it anyway. It's just like.
That's how we got into this.
Right.
But, I can't, like, to be honest with you, I can't make heads or tails of this code. It's really.
You stop moving and making any sound. No, he's gone.
Well.
Internet problems.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, we're just chatting now.
Yes.
Do you guys have more questions? Hello, Eric.
Yeah, I can give them couple minutes or something. Yeah, maybe if Eric or Vlad have any other topics we should discuss. I mean, I think I'm overdue to update. Like, there's been some community updating to the Derby site and FAQ that I need to deploy. There's another thing to note is the guys made Decision Mapper. They launched their website, I guess, and there's like 6 tutorials, I want to say. Is it 4 or 6? There's a lot of new Intro to Derby tutorials on there, which are a great start, and they're in an open source repo. It's all powered by Markdown, so it's really cool. I'm overdue to write some tutorials myself, so I'll pull requests to that, or submit whatever I can. And yeah, so that, I mean, the community is doing a lot to pick up the slack that we're leaving with documentation right now, and I'm going to make sure that we incorporate that on the main site. We need a link to those tutorials for sure. So that's really cool.
Oh, question.
Yes.
There was Forward.js conference.
Yeah.
First, it was Nate wanted to make a let's say
Talk.
With then I thought that it was Joseph. What?
Yes. So Nate was going to give a talk about rendering in different templating systems, but for the same reason that Nate hasn't joined us here, he's been so busy that at the last minute I took over presenting at the conference, and gave a talk about a lot of the about ShareJS and Derby and how we can build collaborative web apps. Yeah, we gave a talk about how we can build collaborative web apps, anyway, yeah, it went down really well. It unfortunately wasn't recorded properly. They recorded me, but not my screen, so I'm going to be giving the same talk again in a couple weeks. Hey, you're back. I'll be giving the same talk again in a couple weeks, and we'll record it then and post it online.
It's interesting to look at this.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk Tuesday at a JavaScript meetup here about how we use Derby to build Lever. So it'll be somewhat technical, but more on the side of using the stack and the things that we've the patterns and stuff like that we use. So I'm hoping that will we will record that talk, and hopefully it will be some starting points or for people to get into Derby.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what about docs? Are there any plans?
Yeah.
We will not beat Meteor.
Right.
No way.
This is true. Yeah, I mean, the problem is that like this month and the past month have just been extra hard here. So, but we definitely hear you. I will probably spend some time. I will spend time this weekend working on it because when I give the talk, I won't be able to give it with a straight face if there's 0 docs, right? Like,
Yeah, I actively apologize during my talk. I put up a slide. Actually, I mean, I could show you guys well, the presentation itself. I put up a slide being like, you know, this is really early adopter territory, and you know, like there are sharks and other dangers, and one of them is that there's like really terrible documentation. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I've been slowly fixing it. So on the backend side of things, except for the query API, which I'm not very happy with anyway. That's documented well now. The REST API's got decent documentation. The access control code doesn't yet, but there's a couple of API changes that I want to make. The ShareJS client server API doesn't have documentation. That's probably the biggest hole at the moment. Maybe I'll go through and do that soon. There's a whole bunch of, I've been wanting to do a bit of API churn on that anyway, which I've done a lot of now for 0.8. So maybe it's time just to like document the whole thing. But yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
We are starting to understand LevelDB a little bit better, so we can kind of talk about it. Like we can make, you know, attempts to sort of articulate. So we might be able to offload some of that, a little bits and pieces.
When you say LevelDB, do you mean LiveDB?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, LiveDB. My bad. You were starting to get a bit of the hang of it, especially when it comes to like doing adapters and stuff.
Yeah. Sweet.
So we can start sort of putting in. Like we'll probably do it in the rethink driver just to sort of see if we can get it squared away in our own head.
Sure.
And then if you guys want to pick and choose out of that, then you know that can end up in the main line of documentation for live. But
if you could actually like just go through and read the README on LiveDB, and if there's anything that you think is missing or like should be better explained or isn't explained very well, like you can just hit the edit button and then it'll submit a pull request on whatever you want to change.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that sort of caught us off guard, especially with the get version stuff. That kind of there was a get version in the prototype function in the Mongo.
Yeah.
LiveDB Mongo code. And we were like, what is this, and when does it ever get called? And I was really hedging on that code being called at some point, and then it never got called. So we were like, whoa, we just wrote a whole function, or we ported a whole function that doesn't ever do anything. So
hey, get everything gets called. Ian was running into a situation where that was like, yeah, getting called yesterday. It's important for some reason.
It's there. It does.
So the thing that happened to me was if we restore a database with the snapshots, document snapshots, and we do not populate the operations, I guess what LiveDB does, if I'm remembering correctly, right, is it tries to get you're trying to submit an operation. Like so what I was trying to do is I could fetch one of the documents that I restored, right, and then I want to modify it. And so LiveDB is going to say, oh, you want to modify it, you need to submit an operation. So I'm going to need to bump the version of this snapshot and apply the operation. And the operations weren't there, so it's trying to get the so it checks the operations to get the version, and then to get the latest operation to get that version. And that's what the get version function does. And then it goes on to submit stuff. And with no operations there in my database and none in Redis or anything, it just kind of barfed. and so we made a small change where if there's no operations, we get the version from the snapshot. And then what I think it will do is just kind of create an operation that just kind of creates the whole new snapshot.
It doesn't do that.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, but like
Moving
forward, we want to be able to remove all the operations, so we want to make it optional that operations are there at all. What it does is that, so like if there's kind of two parts to that API. Maybe this is how we got version function is ever called. Like there's a part of the API that is specifically for people implementing the operation log. So, you know, storing all the operations historically. The operation log is more authoritative than the snapshots themselves. So, in theory, except for the case of queries, but I hate that code anyway, it should actually, like, it should work completely fine if you delete all of the document snapshots. And then if you fetch a document, LiveDB will be like, oh, let me get this document. Oh, like the snapshot's out of date. You know, I'm gonna like grab whatever the snapshot is and then replay all the operations that happened since that document snapshot. And if the document snapshot doesn't exist at all, then that's like a document snapshot at version 0. It'll replay all the operations and then it'll put you in the current state and then give you that. But because of that, when you do a fetch of a document, it fetches the snapshot and it also checks with the operation log to make sure that you're up to date.
Yeah.
So that's why it does the get version call. And it says, oh, like, you know, I've got this document snapshot at version 100. Are there any operations, like, should it actually be at version 100? And if so, like, so it goes get version, and if that says 100, then great, we're fine. If get version says we're at version 102, then we'll go and fetch those operations, apply them immediately before we return from fetch. That makes sense?
This begs the question for me, because like the way our business model works is we're going to be a lot of scaling is going to be involved with this business. So our big fear is that we're going to end up with like a document with 1 million versions.
Right.
And an uplog that's just gigantic.
So this is one of the nice things about having had other people use this code before you. You're not the first person to have this problem. You're not the first person to talk about this. We've talked about this. We've run into this problem ourselves. We're at the situation now where I think it's about like over half of our data is is ops. Actually, I think it's like 2/3 or something.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. It's like a lot in some of our collections, like gigs and gigs of operations. We want to make it so that you can add a TTL to operations. This is like on my list for LiveDB changes. We want to make it so that if the operations aren't there, then everything will keep on working. But there's going to be a bunch of like random, like I didn't think of that when I was implementing LiveDB, which is fine. It just means
totally cool. That's totally cool.
yeah, well, it's fine. We just need to add a bunch of tests around it. Like, there's no fundamental reason why you can't delete all the operations if the operations are old anyway. So long as you don't have any clients that. So, like the situation is that if I have a document open, then I go offline. Like I fly to Tahiti and there's no internet in Tahiti, even though there is. The internet's too expensive. I go to Germany. The internet's too expensive in Germany. Then I make a bunch of changes to a document, and then I come back 2 weeks later. Then I'm going to need all of the operations that happened between when I went offline and when I came back online. In reality, no one's going to leave their browser window open that long. No one actually expects that to work. And if you're offline for 2 weeks and like we can't merge in your changes, then okay. Like, so the answer is you pick it up. We should be picking it up at time limit when you configure LiveDB to say, please keep the operations around for 2 weeks. And then in Mongo, or maybe that would just look like in Mongo you would just set a TTL on the documents themselves. I don't know if there's an equivalent in RethinkDB to say like I only want this data to hang around for 2 weeks, and after that you feel free to get rid of it. But then LiveDB then also needs to take that into account, right? So if a client connects and blah blah blah, and then like if the client tries to submit those operations and you know the operations in between, we need to error back to the client to let them know and tell them, and like all of those little pathways just haven't been exercised at all because I didn't think of that. And I'm sure there's going to be bugs, and there's going to be bugs like the thing that Ian was talking about, where like actually when we're calling get version, maybe get version should actually be returning like null in the case where it doesn't know because there's no operations, and that means like we should be going by whatever's on the snapshot, and then like we should add that logic that we added in LiveDB Mongo into LiveDB itself. There's going to be a couple little changes like that we need to make, and it won't be a lot of changes.
We sort of anticipated that you guys were working around something like that because it only makes sense to have that functionality if you're trying to sort of preserve the snapshot with a no op log. So that made sense to us from that perspective.
Yeah.
I like your 2 weeks cache thing because we sort of thought about it a little differently. Like we did it. We were sort of thinking about it in terms of how Twitter does their activity streams. They keep the top 600, the most recent 600. Like, you know how Redis can, hold 600 and then dump the 600 first, and then they have that stack. But I don't. That's where, like, if you're in Tahiti, then you go to Germany and you had your browser open, like that edge case. That sort of comes back and haunts you because if you have 650 commits and you're only going to store 600 ops, then
right. Yeah, doing it by time is more reliable from the user perspective.
I agree. Yeah.
But it's a little bit less reliable from the data storage perspective. It's like, oh well, I honestly don't know how much data I'm going to be storing it on a moving 2-week window, but if you've got enough users, then it should all average out.
There's also kind of like the thing that I feel like we're running into is a lot of that discussion is in the context of a running system, but like we may have multiple environments or testing, staging, local environments, or even if we decide we want to shard by account. Like in our application, everything is very much separated by account. So we can very cleanly separate things on the database level if we want. And so it's just a matter of being able to conveniently move data around using more traditional tools. So if we can ignore the ops for the case where we're okay, I'm gonna boot up this environment. I want the data to be there. I don't really care about the ops because no one's ever connected to this system before. And from now on, we'll continue using ops, right? And being able to do that reliably and easily is part of the reason why we just made that fix and the kinds of things we're thinking about. There.
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, it would just genuinely be more convenient to because you could just do things like that if the ops were not necessary. But it shouldn't be a difficult change. I don't know. I could do it. It would take me a few days. Someone else could do it. We just have to make a bunch of tests of what happens in this case if there's no operations? What happens in this case if there's no operations? And then see what actually happens, and then decide what should happen, and then go in the code and make it do the right thing.
Well, I know where you guys are going with it, and I think that's the right direction for us as well.
Cool.
However, if you guys just drop me an email or if you put it in the notes and we'll follow up on it if you guys need any help with that.
Yeah, great.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, we'd love some help if you're keen to do the code. Yeah. There's actually, which Friedel.
We don't do anything in coffee though, by the way.
That's fine.
That's a here for anybody. Sorry.
Oh, all the tests are currently in coffee, so sorry.
No, that's okay. It's okay.
You can include JavaScript in coffee.
Yeah. If you write it in JavaScript, I'll port it to CoffeeScript. That's the deal.
Yeah, okay, we can do that. That's a good compromise. Yeah, we always, there's in Chiang Mai there are not too many JavaScript developers, but they're talking. There's it seems to be a real rejection of anything CoffeeScript related. So it doesn't come up too often.
I went to JS and it was actually really funny. I don't know. People in the Node community have really strong opinions. Sorry, I went to Node. People in the Node community have strong opinions about it and what should or shouldn't be allowed in NPM. I don't know. I just genuinely think that CoffeeScript's a better language than JavaScript. I mean, they just took JavaScript and fixed some things. Technically speaking, there's that. I mean, I totally understand from a community perspective, and sure, use the thing if it's if there's more of it. But sorry, I'm just finding the.
So yeah, after Joseph finds the link he's looking for, I think I'm gonna have to duck out and go to work. But I don't know if there's any last thoughts we want to throw out there.
I'm still holding back the big old discussion about WebRTC data channels. We're not ready to talk about it. We don't know enough yet, so we can't be like effective in helping change that. But it's something that's definitely on our minds.
Yeah.
So if just putting it out there, just letting everybody know that's something we're interested in doing. And there's no time frame for it because we can work around it. But we have a lot of time down the road before that's a really big issue for us.
Yeah, I mean, like, briefly on that, you should know that the algorithm that ShareJS uses relies on a server. You need a central point you need an authoritative source to decide the order that operations are accepted on the server. This is a known, I mean, it's an algorithmic problem. There are OT algorithms that can deal with this situation. CRDTs can, but CRDTs, you can't do arbitrary JSON editing. You can do text editing on CRDTs. And ShareJS should support CRDTs, but yeah, we should talk at some point about this. I've thought about it a lot, and I've got a lot of opinions about it, and it's like doing arbitrary peer-to-peer stuff is something that I want to solve at some point. The simplest solution would be to have it so that if you're in a WebRTC context, have one client be the sort of host or something.
Yes. This is what we think too.
Yeah.
Like the document, whoever created the document will actually push the ultimate changes up to server side.
Yeah.
So it's like a peer-to-peer binding amongst the clients, but there's one authoritative upload to the server side. Yeah. This is something that we would be very comfortable with.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. If you do it as
frankly.
If you set things up as in a tree-like situation, it'll work great. Yeah. Anyway, but we should talk about that later. I should probably go.
Yeah. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was kind of hoping to catch the last call here. So.
Yeah.
Have a great one, guys. Thank you very much again for your time, and just keep the discussion. We'll be more involved in the news group. And if there's anything you guys are in need of, just ask. Otherwise, sometimes we don't notice everything every once in a while, so like we respond to like commands and stuff too. So we're well trained to do things like that.
I'll just start assigning issues to you.
Whoa! let's talk about like emails first and see where we go from there. But once again, thanks a lot, guys, and have a wonderful day.
All right, thanks. Yeah. Good night.
Talk soon.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Yeah.